I tested hundreds of studying techniques to find the best one for each subject. And if you use these, you could literally study 10 times faster and still top your class. I picked the 4 biggest school subjects: maths, English, science, and history, and tested every single studying technique on these subjects until I found the most effective for each subject. Let's start with the subject most people get wrong: maths. Most students treat it like a reading subject. They reread notes, watch lectures or lessons, and stare at formulas hoping they'll just magically make sense. But maths isn't something you read, it's something you do. It's like trying to learn how to swim by reading about it. It won't work unless you actually go and put yourself in the water. So, for maths, the studying techniques that you should aim for are active practice and error tracking. Do as many questions as possible, but there's a twist. After every question, mark your answer. Find your mistakes and write them in a mistake log. It's not enough to just do questions. You have to learn why you're messing up and then drill those patterns until they're gone. And make sure to spread your working out as stupidly long as possible. The more in-depth your working out is, the less likely it is to make silly mistakes, and the easier it is to find where you make mistakes if you're going back and trying to see where you made it. Most people fail English because they do this one thing wrong. They try to study how to answer a question without ever truly understanding the question itself. Imagine walking into a debate but never listening to what the opponent has to say. How could you win? The same goes for English. You can't expect to do well on a test that is based on how you approach a question unless you actually study the questions themselves. So for English, the best techniques are to reverse engineer the marking criteria and to study model answers. Look at past essay questions. Don't just read them, break them apart. What are the verbs asking you to do? Are they asking you to explain, analyze, or compare? What techniques or themes do you need to focus on? And what would a perfect paragraph look like? Then study high-level answers, annotate them, look at why their structure works and what makes it excellent. It's not just about what you're writing, it's about knowing exactly what markers want and giving it to them sentence by sentence. Science is not about memorizing definitions, but most people take it out to be. I always see people using flashcards and taking important notes to study for biology or chemistry. And although that can be extremely helpful for memory-based questions, science is an applications and systems-based subject. Trying to cram for science by memorizing systems components alone is like trying to build IKEA furniture by memorizing the parts list. The best techniques for science are conceptual understanding and application. You have to understand the systems, how they work, and why they behave that way, then apply them. So ask yourself things like, how could I explain this concept to a 10-year-old? Or can I visualize what's happening on the systems level? Most importantly, try to use it. If you're learning about Newton's laws, imagine pushing a shopping cart. If it's DNA replication, imagine being an enzyme. Or try do-it-yourself experiments. Apply what you learn, even if it's just in your head. That's how you can move science from your notes to your brain. Now, don't take this as to avoid memorization, but usually people focus too much on memorizing components and not enough time on how components work in a system. And once you see the bigger picture, it's easier to use more effective study techniques like storytelling, synthesizing, creating, or visualization. History gets a bad rap, mostly because people try to memorize dates and facts like a robot. But humans aren't wired to remember facts. We remember stories. Let me give you an example. Every time you watch a movie, by the end of the movie, even though you didn't take down a single note, you still remember every character, almost every event, and the overall story. This is because of how memory works. Memory is a game of importance. The more important a memory is, the stronger it is. And stories trick the brain into thinking that events are happening to you rather than other people, making it more important than a fact about a person that you never met. So, the best techniques for studying history is to use story-based active recall. So try and turn every history topic into a story using things like character, conflict, and cause and effect. A great example of this was actually a lesson I had in history, where my teacher understood the fact that storytelling made it far easier to learn. While we were learning World War I, she turned the story of World War I into a bar fight where each person in the bar was a country. This way we learned the underlying themes and the underlying motives for each of the countries and the cause and effect used. Even though this story wasn't exactly the story of World War I, it set up for a great base as we continued through the topic. And we all ended up learning far more than we would have if we didn't have that story to set a base for us. To sum things up, for maths, do as much practice as you can and make sure to track your errors. For English, study the question types and model answers. For science, understand it deeply and apply it imaginatively. And finally, for history, turn it into stories and then recall it from memory. These aren't just good tips, but the most effective studying methods for each subject. So now you don't have to hate school because you have the right studying strategies. If you want to learn more studying tips and hacks that will help you to make your school life far easier, then subscribe to the channel and follow our journey. Thank you for your time and use it wisely.